Bonjour everyone, I hope you're all having a great day. Today we're doing a timeline and main lore video on Elden Ring. I'm going to keep it short to the point. I'll see you at the end. Hope you guys all enjoy. In the beginning, everything was one with the One Great, and from the One Great came the Outer Gods, the Greater Will, who holds the most power and influence in this iteration of the Lands Between. It uses its two fingers as emissaries in the Lands Between. The Frenzied Flame, an outer god that when things gained souls and personalities, sought eternally to melt everything away and everything to become one with the One Great. It uses its three fingers as emissaries. The Formless Mother, or the Mother of Truth, who craves wounds. It employs blood incantations and is known to associate with Moog, Lord of Blood, after he met the being deep underground and his accursed blood was set aflame. The Sealed God of Scarlet Rot, the same being that cursed Melania with her Scarlet Rot. While not much is known, there is a possibility that this being lies deep under the Lake of Rot. And while this being is sealed away, it still holds some semblance of influence, seeing though that the being cursed Melania. The Fell God was the god associated with the giants atop the Mount atop the giants. This being was subdued by Queen Marika the Eternal long ago, and it is most likely that the eye that opens up in the Fire Giant boss fight is a manifestation of this very god. The god of the moon, while its actual name is not known, we do know that it was worshipped by the Carians and was the base of glintstone sorcery. It's possible it held some kind of influence before the age of the Erd Tree. The last two we do not know anything about, except from what races worship them. The first one is the god of the death birds, and the second one is the unnamed ancient god of dragons, a god worshipped by Dragon Lord Plaxitus during his time as Elden Lord in an age before the Erd Tree. The primordial crucible birthed all life. The first beings, or things that existed, were the ancient dragons whose stone scales allowed them to become immortal. They created the floating city of Farum Azula, and they were led by the Dragon Lord Plaxitus. I think I pronounced that right. He was the Elden Lord of that age. And in time, the primordial Erd Tree would be born, and with this birth, all species and life forms would be born. The omens and misbegotten somehow inherited aspects of the crucible. Demi-humans, half beast, half man, and ancestral followers who were located deep underground, most likely originated from this age as well. Last but not least, the Nox civilization flourished, humans as well. Eventually, in time, a group of humans flourished at the base of the Erd Tree. Ruling over these people was Marika, a Numan Empyrean from outside the Lands Between. She was chosen by the Greater Will and its emissaries, the Two Fingers, to become the vessel of the Elden Ring itself and to house it inside of her own body. Thus the Greater Will sent down an Elden Star, carrying the Elden Ring and the Elden Beast, a vassal of its territory. When the Elden Ring was created, Queen Marika the Eternal plucked death from the Lands Between. Now it's not entirely certain who it went to first. It suggests that the Glowmite Queen possessed it first, but the running theory is that it's Melina, but Melina, most likely being the child of Marika, isn't born yet, so this is up to debate. Either Malekith or the Glowmite Queen had the Rune of Death first. Eventually, Queen Marika would meet Horolu, a bloodthirsty warrior, and ask him to have Serosh, a lion, put upon his back so that he could become her consort, and the first Elden Lord. And with this marriage, the first demigod, Godwyn the Golden, was born. Believe it or not, everything was in opposition of the Erd Tree in the beginning. The three main big factions that were against the Erd Tree were the Ancient Dragons, the Academy of Raya Lucaria, and the moon they worshipped. The Fire Giant, atop the mountaintop of giants and their fell god. Somewhere around this time, the twins Mohg and Morgott were born from Queen Marika and Godfrey, first Elden Lord. Because of their royal heritage, their horns were never cut off, and they were sent to the subterranean shunning grounds. This would become the home of many omens of royal blood in the future. Quite a few years later, a young astrologer called Radagon would go up fastly through the ranks of Lucaria, eventually becoming the head of the academy, and make her family, the Carians, royals. When Radagon met Rennala on the battlefield, it is said that it was like love at first sight, and he renounced his vows. He renounced his territorial aggressions at the Church of Vows. They went on to get married, and he was given, as per tradition, a moonlight great sword by his queen. They would have 3 children together: Luna Princess Rani, who was picked by the 2 fingers to become an Imperial, General Radagon, Scar Scourge of the Stars, and Rykard, who would later become known as Lord of Blasphemy, as he was eaten by a serpent. Great rune and all, it was his decision, of course. This union led to the Golden Order using both intelligence and faith. The next war that occurred was with the Fire Giants and the Giants. They possessed the Flame of Ruin, supposedly given to them by their god, that they worshipped the Fell God, an outer god like the Greater Will. And so a mighty battle commenced, and the mountaintop of giants was laid under siege. Only one, and their fell god, was defeated by Queen Marika the Eternal, subduing it, possibly not destroying it, because if we go off the Fire Giants, boss battle phase 2, that is the fell god supposedly manifesting itself in the middle of his chest. It's also worth mentioning that all the giants in the Lands Between all have their middle where the eye was, being stabbed through, piked through, so that might be the only place that the Fell God can manifest itself. Now that all their major foes have been defeated, they stand on top now, and while this might seem at peace, they might seem good, it's really not. Yes, it might seem like that for some people, but people like the Omens, the Misbegotten, demi-humans, all treated terribly and horribly. It might seem like everyone was happy and that everyone was at peace, but you have got to remember that at the end of the day, the Greater Will and Queen Marika all had their own intentions, and at the end of the day, the people of the Lands Between are merely pawns in their game. As the last battle that Godfrey fought that was needed for the Golden Order to be on top, it is said that the golden hue of grace left his eyes, and that he was renounced shortly after as the consort of Queen Marika, and was sent and banished to outside the Lands Between, becoming the first Tarnished. With him he took his soldiers, which would later become the player characters' ancestors. His Crucible Knights did not venture on this journey with him, and only 2 of them remain at their posts in the capital, while the others are scattered around the Lands Between. During this time, I believe this is when Mohg and Morgott escaped the subterranean shunning grounds. It is my belief that the Formless Mother first made contact with Mohg while he was still in the subterranean shunning grounds. Probably while he was at his weakest and his most vulnerable, she struck out, gave him an offering, said that he'd become useful, and that he should create his own dynasty, manipulated him until he became what we find in-game, obsessed with his dynasty. We do know though that Morgott spent his time protecting the capital. For how long we do not know, but it's in my belief that he started around now, and this is where he started cultivating his beliefs in the Golden Order. Not too long after that, Radagon was sent an invite to return to the capital and become the second Elden Lord and consort to Queen Marika. This also, though, meant leaving his wife Rennala. When Radagon left Queen Rennala, it broke her mentally. The only thing she had left was the great rune of Unbirth that was given to her shortly before he left. Shortly thereafter, the Academy of Lucaria understood that Rennala was no champion after all, and imprisoned her. Somehow though, Ranni was able to get a spell off, and a protection spell that if anyone tried to harm Rennala in her prison, she would manifest a version of her in her prime. It was during this time that the ancient dragons invaded the capital. But what happened next shocked everyone. Godwyn the Golden befriended Fortisax the dragon, becoming its companion. Thus, an alliance with the dragons was made, and the dragon cult was absorbed into the capital's culture. Something you may not expected, or you might have expected if you finished the game, is Radagon is Marika, and that they are two beings in the same. So when they would eventually have children, they would be pure blood god. I'm pretty sure, doesn't this count as like self-cest or whatever? I'm not sure. Anyway, the children that they ended up having were twins called Miquella and Malenia. They both suffered a curse because of how they were born. Malenia suffered from the accursed scarlet rot, which was both due to how she was born and the scarlet rot outer god. Miquella, on the other hand, was cursed to be ever youthful and stuck in a child's body. Things continued almost the same from here. Nothing much changed. Miquella and Malenia grew up. Miquella searched far and wide, trying to find a cure for his sister's scarlet rot, while Malenia trained and honed her skills with the blade with her swordsman teacher. Miquella also helped invent some of the incantations of the Golden Order fundamentalists as a child, showing you just how much wisdom he possessed. One day, Miquella would realise that the Golden Order did not hold a cure for his sister's scarlet rot. So, he took a sapling of a minor erd tree and drenched it with his own blood. He then planted it far out on the ocean, and the only way to get there was through the treacherous consecrated snowfields. This plant that grew into a tree would be known as the Great Halig Tree, a home for all those who were forsaken by the Golden Order, like the Misbegotten and the Omens, and those kind of people that were disregarded. Apart from that, things stayed the same until, eons later, a certain lunar princess and certain other people began to get fed up with the dogmatic ramblings of the Fingers and doing the bidding of the greater will. And so destined death was stolen from Malekith the Black Blade by the Ranni the Witch. In a precaution in case her plan did not work, Ranni created a stone and placed fragments of the Rune of Death upon it and gave it to her brother Rykard so he would have a chance of defeating Malekith. The plan would go as follows. Ranni would give the Black Knife Assassins blades imbued with the Rune of Death. They would sneak into the capital and slay Godwyn the Golden, while at the same time Ranni the Witch slew her Empyrean flesh. This would make it so the centipede-like symbol of death that marks when a demigod dies is only half now. Thus started the Shattering, a war that would yield no victor. When the Elden Ring was shattered, it split off into great runes. The demigods were able to claim these great runes and use their strength. There was probably more great runes than we can acquire in game, as we know that Fingerprint Vike possessed 2 great runes at least. So that means he must have slain 2 shard bearers already, because he was considered for Elden Lord, and you need to be able to get to the Atlas Plateau first to even be considered. The most atrocious battles happened at Mount Gelmir. It was a land of grief and sadness, led by the gluttonous, blasphemous demigod Rykard. Just before the Shattering War started, from dialogue from Melina, we can assume that she was born inside the Erd Tree, and that she was born just before the Shattering. She was given a mission by her mother to become kindling of the Erd Tree and guide a Tarnished to the flame of ruin. Eventually it would come down to the battle between Melania, Blade of Mikola, and General Radagon, Conqueror of the Stars. It would be a ferocious and mighty battle, but there would be no winners. As General Radagon stabbed his blade through her, she bloomed a second time and unleashed the scarlet rot upon the whole of Caelid and General Radagon, sending him into nothing more than a dog, howling at the sky and cursed ever to wander until we tarnished to deal with him. Melania was carried by a knight called Finlay all the way back to the Halig tree from Caelid. You can acquire her ashes in-game. After this battle, all the demigods locked themselves away and hid deep inside their chambers, where it was safe. It was also during the shattering, the time of the shattering, that Margot became the Lord of Lindale and its king, and as the rightful heir commanded the capital's troops from the shadows, while going under his alter ego Margit, the grace given, protecting the capital from all who may try to attack it. They then inhabited a fractured world, awaiting the arrival of an Elden Lord, someone to take the throne. This wouldn't happen though until the Tarnished returned, and one who we play as in-game takes the throne, or we could become marked by the three fingers, or we could become a consort to Rani, Luna Princess Rani the Empyrean. It could go multiple ways, and you are the one who decides which way it goes. Sadly, that's all we have time for today. I hope you all have enjoyed. There should be end cards popping up right on screen, showing you our previous videos that we've done, and some other lore videos. I'll see you guys in the next one. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. This has been the Emerald Gecko. Bye. Also, Simon is the best Soulsborne character.